there again. It's been a long time. There's a multitude of reasons for that. One of the simple ones is I upgraded the PS5 version of GTA 5, and the online version of that has no private lobbies anymore. Which means if I want to wander around in Squirrel, I got to do it in passive mode, which means I can't really fly anything or drive any interesting vehicles. And it also means I have to put up with your typical yahoos online driving by trying to blow me up constantly because they don't seem to notice that I'm in passive mode. It also makes it impossible for me and my friends to shoot videos anymore like we used to, like Bloodborne and Darkness and Savage's videos and that kind of stuff. So, we just don't anymore. Kind of sucks. Same reason we never did very many videos in Red Dead. Just too much chaos, you know, and no way to have a private lobby unless you're on PC and you can start up a private server or something. So there's that. The main big reason is just there seems like there's way too much bullshit going on in the world for me to settle down and pick something to talk about in particular that I feel like I have anything to add to, right? Like the Middle East is a hot pot fucking shit going on, people dying for dubious reasons, and you know, part of me in one way is almost subconsciously dismissive of that, not that I should be, but simply because that in general that area of the world has been in some kind of conflict or some level of tension, near conflict since before I was born. You know, I wish I had the answers to make it stop, to kind of slap everybody involved and be like, hey, wake up, you know, there's no reason for people just going about their lives to be blowing up because of whatever the fuck is going on, right? You know, and it's not a simple situation, it never has been. You know, I'm not trying to suggest I have any answers, I just hate to see your average person just going to work every day or trying to raise a family just get blown the fuck up because of somebody else's issues, right? That's never acceptable. The whole Ukraine thing's getting really complicated. It was never a simple situation because politically speaking, economically speaking, militarily speaking, the whole world's a net of entanglements and obligations and pacts and sanctions and alliances and and I don't have the time or the headspace to keep up with all of it. But if what the algorithms are feeding me is any indication of it, things are only getting more complicated. So I don't even know where to begin with that. It's just let's all hope, you know, let's all hope Fallout doesn't become a reality, right? Fuck, we're right back to, you know, Cold War concerns again, right? I was alive long enough to see the end of the Cold War. I was very young when it happened, but I do remember the Berlin Wall coming down in my hometown, having a piece of it up in like in the town center as a memorial to dumb shit we shouldn't do as human beings anymore. So anyway, there's all that shit that I'm not going to go any further into, you know. It's just shit. And depressing and fucking like that. But the other thing that seems like the algorithm is feeding me is, well, that was appropriate. Kind of shit like this, you know, shit I'll never afford and don't care about buying. So all these lengthy fucking artsy fartsy fucking YouTube car commercials are like, you know, buy our car, it'll fucking make your dick bigger and it'll grow wings out your asshole. It's like, yeah, bye, don't care. Just spare me the 5-minute commercial and just be like, buy our car. No, next next video, right? And the rest of it is humanity on some levels and in some circles being obsessively fascinated with what's between their legs or what isn't between their legs, or you know, how they physically decide to appear to the world. Personally speaking, I don't care. You know, like in this game at least, you know, nobody seems to be too mad about it. I play as a chick. Because I really like Judy. I'm pretty sure she's a lesbian. And B, because I enjoy the photo mode, and I'd rather take pictures of someone who personally I find attractive than, you know, some video game approximation of myself. You know, if I want to see myself, I can look in the mirror anytime I want. You know, and I haven't changed all that much other than to get fatter and half my hair fell out and it turned gray. But, you know, whatever. Fuck, aging squirrel. Where was I going? So yeah, you see all this, it's either the one side kind of shoving preachy messages in our faces about how it's okay to be, you know, fucking trans or gay or cross-dressing, or I don't even know, I can't keep up with all of the umpteen million different states of being that everyone's struggling to label. I don't give a shit. You know, not in a malicious sense. You know, if somebody wants to be a chick with a dick, go ahead. I'm not interested romantically in that sort of thing, or that type of physical expression of a human being. But I'm not going to think any less of someone who decides to go that way. You know, every once in a while, people are actually born that way. It happens. It's rare. But whatever, like, I don't give a shit. And I guess one of the reasons I'm even touching on a topic that I personally don't give a shit about is because it's invading my escapism. And do I care if a game has a trans character in it? Nope. I couldn't care less. If they're an interesting character, I'll engage with them. You know, I can put a dick on my female body here if I want to in this game. I don't care. I'm not interested in dicks personally. I've got one. I can see it anytime I want. You know, it's just not my thing. Dick squirrel. Fucking dick. Do I have to go back to my point? So anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of games that I may have been interested in playing. You know, that I may have been more excited to play, except it seems that a certain mindset has been kind of crowbarred into it and changed it from something that I can escape into and make my own character out of, into something where I'm forced to exist in a way that may not be of my choosing. You know, I generally tend to play the good guy anyway, so I'm not opposed to playing a character that makes moral and kind of open-minded decisions about things. You know, I appreciate games like Baldur's Gate 3 where you can be genuinely evil, and it's a valid playthrough if you want. I never really find evil playthroughs that interesting, because, you know, if the solution to most things can be resolved with punch thing in face until dead, you know, then it gets a bit repetitive. I prefer games where, you know, ultimately do the right thing is the end goal kind of goal, but maybe having to do great things to get to that goal for the greater good, I find is a more interesting puzzle to solve. Anyway, I got sidetracked by the moral decisions in video games, Squirrel. So, I guess personally speaking, I find it just sort of disappointing. Like, it makes me a little bit disappointed in humanity in general. That we're at the point where there's some really serious shit going on. But the most popular thing that it seems to be permeating popular culture is this over-fascination with who we fuck and who we want to fuck. Fuck who you want, as long as they're willingly in it and happy about it, then go nuts. Who cares, right? If you get 9 other friends that you like to dogpile with, fucking go nuts, you know? Maybe be smart about it. Don't spread some sort of horrible disease to all your friends and whoever they might be friends with. You know. unwanted children are a problem, both for the children and the people having them. Not to mention, you may live in a part of the world where you can't do anything about that other than have the child, and then that can lead to all kinds of problems. You know, ultimately you'd like it to lead to a healthy, well-developed child growing up somewhere where they can make a life for themselves, but realistically, that's, well, going for a swim. That's not everywhere in the world that people have that kind of freedom. How the hell am I going to get out of here? Well, guess we're known for a nice swim. I've lost track of, personal freedom. It's always a good thing, so long as it doesn't negatively affect anyone else. I'll come back when I get back ashore. I need to stop and ruminate for a while. Alright. I never thought I'd really see myself doing a squirrel about any gender-related topics at all, really. Other than maybe my few earlier squirrels about sexism. There's been kind of a continued, I guess, or maybe increased volume of hatred for the straight white guy. I've stopped paying attention at this point. And again, I find myself wondering, like, why does it fucking matter? It's not like I had a choice in the situation, right? What happened to anybody from any perspective, genealogically 500 years ago, other than being history that's important for us to learn from, should have no bearing on a person's station in life in this day and age. So, why am I including all this? Well, I don't know. I guess in this day and age, it's important for people to understand a little bit at least of the perspective I'm coming from. So all of the things, or any of the things I have said or will say, are coming from a place of wanting everybody to get a fair shake, to be able to live the life they want to be able to live. Without needing to become a complete slave to whatever corporation has to own them in order for them to do that. Not saying we shouldn't all play a part to keep society going for the shit we need and like to have, like cars and electricity and video games. Anyway, so all this gender, personal expression, identity stuff has been frontline and center in what the algorithm feeds me whenever I'm wanting to watch videos on video games. And on the one hand, I didn't need to hear it in the first place, right? Like, my mind doesn't need to be changed. I don't give a shit. Be you and be happy about it. What was that song from the friggin', I think it was Slayer. They did the song Respect Walk, and it's like, be yourself, by yourself, or something like that. It's like, you're cool, be yourself, but don't scream at me until I'm like you. Right? Because then that takes away my freedom to be myself. I guess that's my perspective. So, on the one hand, am I bothered by the inclusion of, let's say, character creators and storylines that allow for someone to be a straight guy, straight chick, a lesbian, a gay dude, a bisexual person, a transsexual person, a 90-year-old man who wears skin-tight cocktail dresses, whatever. Cool. That does not bother me in the least. Put that in video games, don't care. Ask me to pick a pronoun, I guess. If people are specific about that, like if in life I just looked like a dude, I'm hairy, I got a beard, bit of gray hair, bald on the top, I'm clearly a dude, So I have never had the experience of being misgendered. My stepbrother, on the other hand, when he was younger, like let's say somewhere between 10 and 14, right? Like right at the tween stage, early teenagerhood. He had kind of a longish sort of bowl cut Beatles, like the Beatles band haircut kind of thing going on. His voice hadn't changed yet, and he was a slender person. And he got misgendered as a girl constantly because people thought he was, my stepdad's daughter. And it annoyed the shit out of him, but he kind of just thought it was funny, right? And, actually, you know what? There is one time in my life I did get misgendered. And I think I was, 10 years old, 11 years old, maybe 12. And this was back in the day when people had landlines, right? And you could just get people's phone numbers out of a book that everyone had. They gave one to you for free, right? And so you get random calls. And at one time I picked up, like I said, it was 10, 11. It was a random prank call. And it was, started off with the heavy breathing. And then I was like, hello, yeah, okay, yeah, I knew what was going on. I wasn't that naive even at 10. And then, whoever it was, the guy on the other line, asked me what my bra size was, and I was just like, joke's on you, asshole, I'm a 10-year-old boy, enjoy your life, when I hung up on him, right? So I guess, yeah, I've been misgendered once, because I was 10 years old, because I sounded like a chick on the phone, right? Like, what can I say? So I'm not against anybody being whoever they want to be. But on the other hand, I also see all of the gamer rage and all that other shit about the mere existence of gay characters or trans characters or storylines that include them. And, if it's excessive, like some games, really pushing an agenda and being just as bad as the people they hate, well, I don't approve of that personally, because it's the same thing, just being yelled from a different mouth. But then on the other side, there's all the people raging about the fact that these characters, or these types of stories exist or are even being created. And that, to be honest, kind of makes me chuckle, because they're mad that they might have to play as a chick, or mad to play as a transgender character. I gotta be honest, I'd feel a little bit strange about playing as a transgender character. But if it turned out to be a good character, I probably wouldn't care. Or if it was a game like Dark Souls that it doesn't matter, then it wouldn't matter. I'll play as a girl, I'll play as a boy, I'll play as a fucking reptile. I played as a cat guy in Skyrim. I'm not picky. I played as a blob of horrifying flesh in a game called Carrion. Whatever, as long as the game's fun and good. And if these characters are in the game, great. Represent them realistically. I know plenty of gay people. I've worked with plenty of gay people, dudes and chicks.
How do you respond to recent allegations?
I don't personally have any friends that are transgender. Actually, a former superintendent of my apartment building, who I was, good acquaintances with, had one of their children transition. Don't care. Took me a little while to get used to the new name, you know what I mean? But other than that, I was like, alright, great, don't care. Nice to see you, how you doing? So I know one transgender person, relatively personally. I just don't care. Even at a young age, I was aware of their existence at a time when it wasn't cool to be, gay at all. It was sort of out there. People knew it existed, but in a lot of places in the world, you still can, but in North America, like quote-unquote the developed world, you could still go to jail for being gay, right? So, but I have, my godparents are two gay dudes from Montreal that flipped houses for a living. I don't know what they do now. I haven't been in contact with them since I was a tiny kid, but so, again, don't care. But I get a chuckle out of the people raging over it, because suddenly they're mad about not being represented in a media or medium, whatever, that of entertainment that they love. And it's like, well, all right. On the one hand, I think you should feel included, right? But on the other hand, it's kind of like, well, now you know how they feel when they haven't been included for fucking ever, basically, right? Until recently. It's going to take a while to find a balance of that, but for a while, it's going to take a while for those that are screaming the loudest and being the most visible, thanks to the algorithms controlling our media input, to chill the fuck out and realize that it's hopefully going to settle down into some kind of happy medium where we all more or less get along, even if we don't agree. I know, and I didn't really have somewhere to go with this random squirrel. And consequently, I'm not sure if I'm done going there yet. I just sort of like walking around in this world, since I can't do it peacefully in GTA anymore. Could just be getting old now. I am of the feral generation, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I think part of it too is the writing in a lot of new video games is pretty weak, just on a like storytelling, literary, character, believability kind of level. And a lot of just genuine storytelling is lost in trying to make all of the newly represented forms of human being be either overrepresented or be represented in such a, if it's an innocent sort of thing, you could say it's represented in a unrealistically pure way. Or I say it, but let's say, the new types of human beings that are popular in the media these days, may be overrepresented or shallowly represented as purely angelic beings that have none of the faults of regular human beings, or of, the typical human beings that have been portrayed. And yeah, for sure, back in the 80s, the steroidal male stereotypical hero guy was, well, stereotypical, but not representative of the average guy. It was the sort of thing every guy wanted to be them, but, most realistic guys realized it never would be. But aside from their questionable behavior towards women quite often, they weren't necessarily bad guys at the time. They were supposed to be heroes, and also it was also the understanding that it was a fictional thing. Arnold Schwarzenegger blowing up a whole factory worth of friggin' relatively innocent people to get to the drug dealers or whatever, you know what I mean, is not the ideal way to have such a situation play out, but it's part of the fantasy, right? Like, you think about the collateral damage in your typical superhero movie, then even though they're portrayed as these morally irreprehensible people half the time, you have to hang up your disbelief and realize that, well, alright, that's not taking into account the ridiculous amounts of collateral damage that occur as a result of these people merely existing. Not sure where I was going with that, if anywhere. I'm not suggesting that people who don't conform to the quote-unquote, the air-quote, normal category of human being are a threat. They don't need to be, I mean, look at the normies. We get crazy people too. I mean, Hitler was quote-unquote a normie. I don't consider him a normie. That guy was fucking crazy, but I'm not sure even why I brought him up. It's just, he was, I guess, one of the most extreme manifestations of a great segment of humanity's somehow, for some reason, inborn desire to segregate, categorize, and discriminate. And I don't just mean like racism and stuff. I mean human beings will say, like, this flavor of ice cream is my favorite, and this flavor of ice cream is my not favorite, and that is discriminating between two flavors of ice cream. In that sort of situation, it's completely harmless. That's kind of how you form an idea of yourself. What do you like, what do you don't like? It's a series of discriminations. And maybe this is a discrimination, Squirrel, I don't know. But I guess as per usual, my whole point is screaming at each other and being unreasonable in either direction is correct. And I really wish the whole thing would settle the fuck down at some point, and that corporations wouldn't pander to any specific group to the point where role-playing in situations where you're supposed to role-play become limited to the point where it's no longer role-playing. That's what annoys me the most. And the second most annoying thing is constantly having the YouTube algorithms flood me with all this shit that I don't care about. Like, intellectually, I understand why people would be mad about it, one way or the other. I don't agree with a lot of the vitriol being spun around as a result of it. And quite often the overreaction to it. Like, I don't care too much about the way the characters look in Veilguard. Like, they're cartoony to me. It sort of looks like Fortnite. It's not the kind of aesthetic I find appealing in video games. It's very pretty, as a whole, but I don't give a shit about that, really. My character's going to be wearing a whole pile of armor. In a game like that, I would probably roleplay as a guy that looks like me anyway, right? So as long as I can get close enough, I don't care. But I do find it annoying how very condescending some of the dialogue in that seems to be. Again, I say that with a grain of salt because I haven't played it. I was mildly interested in it. I liked the very first Dragon Age game. I enjoyed the Mass Effect trilogy. I didn't like Dragon Age 2. I didn't particularly like Dragon Age 3. There was too much management going on. And I wasn't in any way particularly interested in the new Dragon Age coming out, unless it was something very similar in mechanics, at least, to the older games. And perhaps at a more evolved development of the conversation trees that they used in Mass Effect and the older Dragon Age games. It would have been fun to play around in a game that was intended to be played very much like Baldur's Gate 3, where there's a definite story going on, and you're filling a definite role in the world as a character. But who that character is defined by you and your actions and your conversation choices. Yeah. So I guess I've kind of made all the points I felt like making. I didn't have one in mind in particular. Just like, I'd be glad when everybody just settles down about who they're fucking and what's between their legs. Like, I don't walk around normally looking at people that I meet every day, and the first thing I think is, I need to know who they fuck and what's between their legs. And I need to tell them. It's like vegetarians that constantly rub it in your face that they're vegetarians. It's like, I don't give a shit what you eat. If you're having fun eating it, great. Like, can we move on to more important conversations or more interesting conversations? That's what I want to happen. I'd like it for all of us to just get the fuck over it, so we can just go about telling interesting stories, having interesting games to play together or by ourselves, and having more interesting conversations than constant conversations about who fucks who and how they fuck. In any case, I'm gonna go murder some bad guys, I think, so catch you later. Don't stop thinking. And have a good one. Don't stop talking to each other. Like proper talking. No need for screaming.